also said that motherhood needs care, sacrifice, and attention. My Lord, Your Excellency, we will hear from you. We are here to empower ourselves. You were in the spotlight of politics for 8 years as the First Lady of Rivers State. And at the same time, you were combining it as a judge of the Supreme Court and different courts. How did you cope? How did you manage these two schedules together with motherhood, together with being a wife? We will want to know the role of His Excellency Peter Odili in this success story and how he helped you. My Lord is going to empower us. And where is the place of God, the God factor in this? Was God ever there? We will hear from you, and this is to empower us. Your Excellency, my Lord Justice Odili, retired but not tired, we the female lawyers in Nigeria, under the umbrella of the Nigerian Bar Association Women Forum, we are here to learn from you. We are here to empower ourselves through your success story. Over to you, Sade, because we are here to learn and we are here to empower ourselves. Female lawyers in Nigeria, empowering ourselves for success. Thank you very much. Sade, over to you. We are here to learn.
I learn from my Lord Justice Mary Peter Odili this morning. I mean, you've done so well. You've retired at the age of 70. So, ma'am, I'd like to start with your background. You began your legal career in 1978 at the prime young age of 26, and you've risen. And out of it, 19 substitute moment, and this is not statistics, in a predominantly male-dominated profession. So the free women of Nigeria in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. How to start is a bit difficult. And where I was born, and my a lawyer. My mother, Benedette, once more. That was Nietzsche, a trader, but she believed so. It was from her that my sisters and I that we attended school and prepared to take any second chance on that. To the extent that she was the one, even though she was not as highly educated as my father, she didn't go beyond the primary school. And I was not happy about it. And not knowing that the following day my mother had brought another lesson teacher to ensure that our brains were open round the clock. So we had to do our education, and of course, it was a one-on-one with them all the time. So whenever there was any they go and break.
Thank you so much. So mommy really did a great deal. I think that's more than and that is actually where I would like to work like that. And I also wanted to know, I have two daughters who also have college to kind of become doctors. We have my daughter who will take her who want to be a we also have my daughter at one time, a good wife, mother, and a judge, and still actually had a successful career. We, as the Nigerian Bar Association Women's Program, would like to if it one of the street.
Like Professor Osho asked, if God was available, God was there all the time. My background, I am a Catholic. I also problem which will occur when there is divergence in faith. And so I have also believed that knowing the traditional what breakthrough is expected, a lot of them that's what in that we just didn't want to this state. He naturally since he came from we had we had never heard of him. But I was a lot, so I wasn't interested in where he came from. All I knew was I'm married this man. So we explaining some personalities that came from health, because I mentioned that, like I said 2 days ago, Professor Emekoyo, the father-in-law who did your project, came from that village. And he attended the same secondary school as his father, your teacher. And Peter attended the same school. So I mentioned this. I also a position on that village who I had lived with my father. So my father for me, to these two men, he felt
Commit one of the
has been a learning process for doctors in the teaching hospital today. In fact, most of the
26 weeks gone. I had attended antenatal. Everything was fine. I went to work. At that time, I was still in the ministry because I was trying to finish the extension, the 4 months extension. And just said that I should buy my colleagues. I went back home, prepared the lunch. I was so happy. And I came over. We had lunch. And in the night, I felt slightly uncomfortable. And went there. That was the last time. When I woke up, I found myself in the hospital. So in March, I got my phone. So I asked, what happened yesterday? Yes. We were in coma for 4 days. And now we got to have a baby girl. And the shots, very strong drugs to match. Injected which baby ingested. What made me happy was he said the little girl was very. But we lost her. So, and in fact, the experience showed us was because the doctors, they just couldn't believe. You can imagine where orthopedic surgeons and professors, all sorts of doctors, everyone trooped to the dining ward to interact with my doctors to find the way forward. And everybody was concerned. Nurses and people in the administration. And I also heard the nursing students called the meeting and decided while I was in coma that every one of them should be made known. That they have been seeing this young girl in the premises, just immediately. That they will see this young couple with the girl moving around, this kind of thing. So everyone should donate blood, irrespective of their blood group. So that when the doctors wanted to do anything, there would be no problem of blood transfusion. And all the student nurses at that time, all of them were researchers. In fact, when I recovered consciousness, I was told that the blood bank in the hospital was overflowing because of blood those student nurses. And so everyone was concerned from every department. And I was asking the doctors, I said, what would an orthopedic surgeon? They said, as far as they were concerned, nothing should happen to this young girl. So that gives us the impression that Nigerians can always rally around. And at the time they were making the donation of blood and everybody to advice and whatever. Nobody cared to know where things from or where things are taken from. So it was.
So that has made us all relate with those within people. And our relationship have been professional was my doctor. So even after that, still
He remained my doctor and he delivered before. So that's a helpful book. But when I became the first lady in the State, I realized that what allowed me to have this experience for
the period. And that enables me to have the same border also, which made us reach every corner of Psychologists and the National Association of China.
I would say, in all never know what he had programmed
For what one that the best of the children. And you mentioned about the training. Peter and I cannot claim to have done it all. Again, God was our play. Because it turned out that early parts of the time we came into Port Harcourt, I found a lot of my school friends, classmates, who were now teachers in various schools here in Port Harcourt. And through them, I interacted with other teachers. And so those friendships helped open my eyes as to the attitude of the young and how to go about looking after them. And again, I would use this opportunity to advise mothers. When criticisms about your children are made to you, don't feel bad, because you may think your children are going along the right way. They will tell you, yes, mommy, that thing you said, we were doing it. For example, I took the children to church. Peter wasn't around. I think it was when he went for his specialization in Liverpool. So after Mass, as we were, my children and I were leaving, an elderly lady, I would call her name, Mrs. Ehinika. She called me back after greeting her and moving. She said, Mary, come. I came back. She said, Mary, please don't be offended. This has been gnawing on me. Your children don't greet. They don't greet the elders. They just look at them. I was shocked because I had trained them to greet elders. So she said, it's only your son that greets. I was taken aback. So she said, I hope you're not. I said, Auntie, thank you very much. So I now called them in the presence of the auntie. I said, you mean you don't greet? Your Justice Chinelo said, Mommy, we greet them, they don't hear. That was the excuse. I said, they don't hear. Now, from now on, you must shout the greeting. Auntie, good morning. Auntie, good afternoon, and so on and so forth. Or uncle, as the case may be. If they don't hear the first one, shout again. I don't want to hear this complaint. And that made me bond with that lady, because she really solved the problem. If anybody had told me, I wouldn't have believed that what I had told them to do, they were not doing. So when I hear people, you are told your children, they're not doing as well, you get angry. You may be shutting the door of correction. So that is, and it took me back my memory lane. Because when I was in secondary school, one day my mother, I think I was in class 4, my mother told me, my friends say you are arrogant. I looked at my mother, she said, hey. I said, me arrogant? She said, hey, the way you have looked at me, my friends are correct. You are really arrogant. You are wondering, how do I know the language, the word arrogant? Oh, I said, but Mommy, I didn't say so. She said, I am your mother. I can see your face. From your expression, we are saying things. How did this woman, does she know the meaning of arrogance? And her friends, do they know the word? She said, my friends are correct. so that put me on guard. I had to now start, okay, so how do I do it? She said, you're not the only one in school.
Well,
So that is, so these are some of the things that help. And of course, God being there.
thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, madam. We don't need to. Thank you so much. Listening to you has been, you've shared so much from humanity to the place of family, correction, all of that. We're really taking it on board and we're learning. Thank you so much. But I want to switch gears and move into your professional life. I know that you've delivered many landmark judgments, and many of them have shaped the socio-economic and socio-political landmarks of the country. I mean, there are judgments that people can reference and point to and say, Justice Odili was instrumental to this and that. But which one would you regard as the one that has given you the most or the greatest satisfaction? Is there any that you could share with us that gives you such fond memories?
Yes. That was the one I delivered in the High Court, Rivers State. It had to do with the Rumola market. On your way to the airport, there's a market there. And interestingly, so a community, what they call this, the local community council, there were some young people took over, became leaders of the community, and decided to take over the running of the market. And apparently, the market was built in the 40s, in the 1940s. And when they built the market in those times, the elders felt that the women were so organized, they would be the best to run and manage the market. And they handed the management and the running to women. So that was the situation from the 1940s till these young people became the executive members of the community, and they felt the market should be handled by them. So it created a crisis in the community, and the women came to court. Interestingly, when they came to court, any day this matter came on, there was always a crowd spilling outside. Fortunately, my court had a courtyard. The whole place would be filled up with human beings, men and women. And the case was fought viciously by counsel on either side, on both sides. The counsel for the plaintiff said, the thing about this case, if it is not given to us, the plaintiffs, human lives will be lost. The other side said, hey, if we don't get judgment, if the crisis, the violence will start from this court. So I saw myself in the eye of the storm. So we went on, took all the evidence, and at the end of it, I didn't know which way, how to approach the judgment. And the days were going by. So one senior lawyer from the local government, but not from that community, came. He said, Ma, please don't be offended. It's not that I want to interlope into a case before you that you've adjourned for judgment. I thought what he would bring up would even assist me. He said, my worry is, my mother comes from the plaintiff side, my wife from the defendant side. And because I know what is going on in the community, there's no way, either way, there will not be violence and he would be affected. So, Ma, please look into the case well and see how it can be done. That was when I knew I had to go to God. I knew on my own, no way. So I would really, as the days were passing, It now turned out I had 3 weeks to the date of judgment. So I went to God. I didn't use regular prayer. I didn't use the Bible because I was too confused. So I decided to discuss with God. I now presented this. I said, you know how this, that, God is very close to us, even though we don't know. So I said, and they're talking of violence, and if blood is shed, I'll be in the middle of it, and I don't want to be affected by bloodshed. So after that, I went back to the parlor. At that time, my husband, who was already in politics, he was in Abuja. He was in the, at that time, he was in the Constitutional Conference. So I went to the parlor, watching television with my children. Suddenly, I had this urge to go into the room. I went to the room, and I had the urge, bring out your pen and paper. And precisely that I started. And as I started writing, I didn't stop till I wrote 28 pages and stopped. Conclusion. I was so happy with myself. So, to me, the judgment was not mine. So I felt I didn't need to read it through before I would come and cancel God's inspiration. So I folded the paper and put it in my bag and carried on life normal. So that day of the judgment, as I got into my chambers, my secretary came in and said, the lawyers said they know the judgment cannot be read if they will take a date. I said, no, tell them to wait. The judgment is ready. And that case, in fact, each time we had a hearing, it used to take about 10 minutes or more to shoo out the people who came for the case. And the noise used to be reverberating. So my secretary even was surprised. And at 9 o'clock, I went in, the court was full, and there were a lot of other lawyers who had come for other matters. So I started. In fact, as I was reading the judgment, I was surprised at some of the things I saw there. So when I finished, you could hear a pin drop. The whole place was quiet. I now saw the balancing act God had done in that judgment. And so when the lawyer for the plaintiffs thanked me, said they can't believe this judgment. They said, he said he was grateful. The lawyer from the defense stood up, thanking that he cannot believe this has happened. And interestingly, other lawyers also said, even though the case did not concern them, but the way it was flowing, they felt they needed to hear. And they've not seen a more balanced judgment. And I was surprised. And when all the litigants and their supporters were leaving, not even the noise of slippers or shoe could you hear. My Odili stood up because he normally used to help him. As he stood up, moved. I did this because there was nobody to quieten or to lead out. They all went away quietly, and there was peace. So to me, that was the day I saw the God of justice and peace. In our church, they always pray justice and peace, justice and peace. I didn't see how, I thought each stood alone, but that was the day I knew without justice there cannot be peace. And I saw that they are interwoven. That to me was my greatest moment, and it has remained so.
Thank you so much for sharing.
That's fine. Thank you so much for that. It's gratifying to learn that the God of justice and peace. That's where you are always on the right path of your ethical things. One is sort of satisfied. Now, I'd like to move to the issue of gender discrimination. And it's become more topical more than ever before in every aspect of our career. I was wondering, in your 44 years of legal practice, did you ever at any time encounter any gender discrimination? And how were you able to overcome this? Because this has really been a problem amongst us women at the past.
Interestingly, I can tell you, I never had discrimination from my student days in the university or my journey through the magistracy to the apex court. I guess, again, Prof asked about where God was. I think God was at play. Because what I found out that may be affecting some women in this matter of gender discrimination. Some of our women may not be faultless. Some of them carry the gender flag as if either it shows they are an underdog that should be given, yes. I have found the menfolk in the course of the magistracy, high courts, court of appeal, and Supreme Court. Once you do your work, you do your bit, and don't try to push, oh, you know, my children, my husband, I have to do this, that's why I couldn't be at work in time. Or like in the appellate court where it's teamwork. Oh, my judgment, I couldn't distribute them in time because. Since the men don't bring up such because, why should we? So you adjust and know how to go about carrying out those duties. There was you and my prof, and I think yourself, you brought up how I was able to manage family life and work. It's a question of adjusting. It's like God has created each and every one of us. I would say without contradiction, there's none of us who does not have one disability or the other. It is what you do, balancing that disability with your excellence in other fields that brings out the balance and makes you excel. And so it is with juggling family life, with the profession. When the children were very young, I didn't keep them away to do my judgments. No. I waited for them to be asleep. So during the day, it was me and them. And like I said about my friends from various fields, we used to interact. Fortunately, they had children of the same, around the same age as mine. So I never visited them alone. I would carry my children visiting those friends. And so while me and my friends would be gossiping or chatting in various fields, the children were playing and interacting. So when I come back, until they slept, I didn't touch any book. And again, my husband's work helped. You know, these doctors, that's why it's unfortunate that the way they are being treated in Nigeria is very sad. They're at work 24 hours because human health, no one can predict. And so when my husband, because of doing his housemanship in the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. And then his youth corps was also in the same university, in the same teaching hospital. But for his youth corps, he was posted to the psychiatric department, where there were 2 professors, 1 consultant, there was no registrar, there was no junior man. So he was there round the clock. So he took that orientation, and then the nursing care of the teaching hospital Benin, you just cannot describe. Excellent. They just treated you like a VIP. In fact, on one occasion, I asked one of the nurses, I said, why am I being treated like a VIP? I'm just one junior lawyer. My husband is a junior doctor. He said, Mary, don't deceive yourself. The treatment you're getting in this side room is the treatment everybody in the world is getting. Yes, that when General Ogomudia built the hospital, at the opening, he called, before the day of the opening, he called a meeting of all the staff and said that once anyone crossed the gates to this hospital, that person is a VIP. Because that person that woman who may have come in rags, you don't know, she may have a wardrobe full of everything you can imagine. But decided, look, I'm tired of all those fineries. Decided to wear one local anything. And you treat that one shabbily. Then you now see convoy of personalities. She's their mother, she's their auntie, and you've treated that one badly. That's the end of your job. So anyone who comes into that hospital is a VIP. And that was the treatment there. So Peter carried that orientation, and when he opened his clinic, that was what, because in making his rosters, because the hospital grew fast, he now had other doctors. In making the rosters for those who would stay nights till morning, he used to put his name. So when he would take his call, I was happy. I said, hey, this man has gone. The children are asleep. What am I to do? I carried the law reports. So that's when I started writing judgments and not allowing them lapse. So that's how I coordinated that. And then after some time, he entered politics. Even though I didn't support him, my father was a politician, so I know what to suffer, and I didn't want the children to have the same fate. Jumping in. So he's entering into politics, and you know, politicians can have meetings for 48 hours. So that helped me. Yes. So the time to write was always available. So that's
You know, I listened to the conversation before that.
Yes.
I'm listening to talk about a supportive family, a supportive husband, and all of that.
But
Yes,
I cannot. I have had mentors. In fact, some I never met until later in life. They mentored through what they said in the newspapers in their reader very early in life. And so that's how I knew about Folake Sholake. She is one of my mentors, even though I met her not more than 15 years ago. Of course, she married a daughter. Oh, yes. So reading those about those women, and then even in Benin, where women who were already married. So each time I went to their homes, I watched and listened to them, and a lot of what they were saying were positives that could assist me, and I garnered all those. So in this extent, I will mention Mrs. Ajabo, Christy Ajabo, the wife of Professor Linus Ajabo. And then even my doctor's wife, Lizzie Dejumao. And then Peter's niece, who happened to be older than him, Mrs. Rosa Domokai, who is married to a soldier. So from these women, and then Mrs. Caroline Henshaw. From these women, I learned a lot, loads and loads of it. And so learning and putting what I learned from them in my home helped me have a seamless home management, and my mother, but at home, I was not domesticated. I just couldn't be bothered about the kitchen. I couldn't be bothered. It was my elder sister who did all that. And my mother used to worry. I said, Mommy, if it's, I will get by. Only for me to marry Peter, who never likes to eat alone. And so, from even that time, when you finish cooking, you will call everybody to come and join in. So, I think when I was getting married, I was worried about how I was going to cook because I didn't know how to do most of, apart from making omelets. That was my forte. But soups and all. When I now learned to cook egusi, which I wrote down, it turned out Peter at that time was allergic to egusi soup. I said, what kind of wahala? So I ran to his elder brother's wife about how to cook the Indonesian delicacy of salad, that is white soup. So that, I now became, I can swear by it. I am good there. So gradually, I had no choice than to get domesticated. And like from those women too, I learned a lot. So my home management, like I said, it became easy and flowed because I had learned a lot from a lot of other women. So I've had a lot of mentors. And then when I got to the Court of Appeal, I met Lufunlayo Adeke, Justice of the Supreme Court, retired. We met day one, and the woman felt, oh, my younger sister has arrived here. And she took me to her wings. And we've been family since then. So a lot I also learned from her. You know, that there have been a lot of other women that time will not allow us to capture them.
You know, we have talked a lot about relationship with other people. You also alluded to your husband with love, the support and all of that. You know, I'm looking at the issue of executive interference in the judiciary, the perception that the judiciary has, because a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, have this perception that the judiciary is corrupt. And we're all eager to hear the Lord's views on that. You were on the inside. Is it as bad as people make it sound?
It is not true. You see, what I have learned, the way and some politicians, there are even, I will not say, make it an all-round thing. Some politicians do not have red lines, do not see anything sacred they cannot match on. And so to get an advantage, they seek to rubbish the judiciary. It is not true. Judiciary is made up of human beings, men and women. And because they are human beings, there are a few bad eggs, which is expected. And the system, there is a corrective system on ground for them. And so when some people lose their case or they want to get an advantage, they decide, okay, let's attack the judiciary. This interesting thing, like I said, I mentioned 2 days ago, I saw the judgments of those famous judges and magistrates of the old Bendel state. Right there. And my mentor, the lady I understudied, Omoro, who later became a judge. She was a princess, she was Princess Akinswa before she got married and became Omoro. I said, Auntie, these record books, why are they like this? She said they don't belong to those judges. They belong to the state and they are available to anybody. So I was flipping through and reading. And so if people take the trouble to read the judgments, you will find that there was nothing procured in these judgments. The law stated you will find them there. But it is those who do not see that there are red lines, and in trying to rubbish judges, you rubbish the institution. And if the judiciary cracks or is destroyed, it is a state of anarchy we're going into, and it is not correct. The judges are working round the clock and not paid properly for the work. I have had cause to write a judgment till morning, and the following morning go to work. All that is there. And only people now, oh, yeah, what do you expect? Like I said, like the biased judgment, they wanted to kill me and my family was God at work. Funnily, that wasn't even my week. I was presiding, I was number 3 presiding after Bodoro's rival. Onguta was number 2 with his own team, and I was number 3. So when I was going to have my week, was the week my husband's matriculation of his students in the university, in his private university, was going to take place. So I pleaded with my Lord Onguta of blessed memory. I said, my brother, please help me. And the matriculation date had been rescheduled by General Abdul Salam, who is the Chancellor of the university. So rescheduling it meant it coincided with my week of sitting. So I pleaded with him, with my brother Anguta, for us to swap. And as is the practice, when you want to swap, you write to the CJN. So I wrote to the CJN explaining that I had agreed with my brother and we've agreed to swap. So that's how I came to be in that, to take that his week. So the CJN wrote approving this swapping. So after the CJN had agreed, then Onguta now phoned me and said, my sister, because his date for retiring was nearing, and he wanted to churn out as many judgments as possible before peering on. So he said, my sister, but I can take your week and my own. I can do anything for you. So I laughed. I was almost tempted. Then I remembered that the Friday of that week I had not taken, I had scheduled an executive meeting of the women judges. At that time, I was the president. And I had scheduled an executive meeting for the Friday. So I said, my brother, I would have taken this up, but it will not be helpful since I will still be in Abuja for that Friday. So I said, but I will take the open check, or the rain check, as he said. So he agreed, both of us laughed. And why I couldn't take it up again, the executive meeting, some of our members came from different states of the Federation, and they had scheduled to fly into Abuja. So how do you suddenly disregard their convenience? So that was what got me to be in Abuja that week. So, and I didn't even know that there was such a file or such a case. So, so that's what got, it was on the Wednesday that somebody called my attention. I said, Bayelsa. I said, which one is Bayelsa? Is Bayelsa, do they have any case? I said, yes, so that, yeah, she read the file. The thing is explosive. I said, I beg, don't go there. So I now told all our members, please, everybody should go and read, and let's see the way out. And I didn't know that man who came for my book launch. I didn't know him. I didn't know his opponent. I only knew their names. And then watching television when they were campaigning, because I watched the news, including channels, everyone. I did watch all of them. So that was beyond watching them on television. I had no interaction with any of them. I didn't know them. So got there, everybody everybody in the panel said there's no way out. And everybody felt bad because somebody was preparing for his swearing in 2 days' time. It was a Thursday. So there was no way to, I didn't write the law. None of us wrote the Constitution. But I recall my husband, he was in the 1988 Constituent Assembly. He was in the Constitutional Conference that produced the draft that is our current Constitution. He had always told me that once the deputy governor had an injury, if I can use that word, or an impairment, that the ticket will fall. I argued with him because I hadn't read that section of the Constitution. I used to argue with him. He said, I'm telling you, because the lawyers in the Constitutional Conference explained everything to them. And so when we were all looking at this, there was no other thing to do than to give it to the man the law said should be given to him. And that is the truth of the matter. Nothing else.
But before we leave this issue, because you were the wife of a politician, you were first lady, and you also said that some politicians, they cross the red line.
Yes, they do.
They don't know.
Mhm.
Is there how has Milord ever faced a conflict of interest, of professionalism, where someone is trying to get you to do something that is not quite the law, but because of the relationship with your husband? How did Milord handle it?
Anyone who did that, even when I was magistrate, all I could tell you was go and get a good lawyer. But to change, like I said, my history, having done 4 days coma, that I cannot explain what happened in those 4 days. That experience, not to talk about reading the law reports of the famous men and women, made me do everything right, because my own judgments are now public. My own book that the 2 books that are personal to me are just my judgments. One of them, my judgments from the magistrate court, high court, and they went into the court of appeal. The other one, high court, court of appeal, Supreme Court. So they are public. And so these 2 experiences defined the way I had to follow every inch of the way. So no matter who I was related to or who was relating with my husband, in fact, we've lost some friends on account of, the case is in your wife's court, and I will say, please, I don't, but he gave a pledge to whiskey. And he wasn't prepared to interfere. So I didn't have conflicts of interest.
And it's very, very commendable. I mean, you're 44 years unblemished years in practice. For my law, it's clear. I mean, and there's a lot of debate about appointment, the mode of appointment of some of our deputy. And there's been a clamor that there should be a review of this process. What's your view? I mean, the quality of some of our judges in the state. I mean, you've told us how you're an avid reader, how you're diligent. We don't see this in some of our judges, unfortunately. And there's been a lot of clamor that there should be total reform to the appointment process, how they're being, and the quality and the standard of some of the judges. What's your opinion?
It's an area I find difficult getting into. The way the clamor is, it's as if we're looking for angels from heaven and not Nigerians. You know, when I got to the Court of Appeal, some people had the impression, oh, her husband. I found it funny because I was sitting judging in the High Court of Rivers State when some seniors in the Court of Appeal, Justice Tabai, Justice Ogewe, some of the judges who were in Port Harcourt division, Justice Onolaja, they were coming, Mary, bring your CV, we want you to come to the Court of Appeal. I said, Court of Appeal, am I qualified? Court of Appeal, they said, look, you're qualified. Mary, bring your CV. They were just justices for, and I found it, how? So I now mentioned it to my husband, who, of course, I was I was skeptical as to whether he would agree, knowing that the Court of Appeal transfers here. There was no way I could be put in the Court of Appeal for Chapel since I was sitting High Court here. So, fortunately, I said, see these big organs in the judiciary asking me to come to the Court of Appeal. He said, because of the caliber of the persons, it will be wrong for you to refuse. It means you're trying. Give it a shot. That's how I gave them my CVs. And that's how I got to the Court of Appeal. And when I got to the Court of Appeal, the current CJ was the presiding Justice, Court of Appeal, Abuja. And he showed me the road there. So I flowed in. Then after some years, Ayo Salami became the president of the Court of Appeal. And he decided to make some transfers. And he sent me to Kaduna, where I was after a month or so, I became the presiding justice of the Court of Appeal, Kaduna. And one day I got a letter from Justice Salami that I should send my CVs, 10 judgments and CV for Supreme Court. I carried to my husband, who was in his private office in the house. I said, Peter, can you imagine, say, Supreme Court? We laughed. Peter said, why do people who create this kind of joke? There's no way this thing can happen. So, but he said you have to obey your order. So I told Gemma, my people, to help me with the photocopying of some of the judgments, which I carried to Justice Salami. He took a look at them and said, Mary, I don't see how this can happen. No. I now burst out laughing. He too laughed. And he said, you are laughing. I said, sir, me and Peter laughed because we know it's not possible. But we have to, since you wrote, I have to obey you. That's why I brought, he said, hear the language. He said, I will send your papers over. When it does not work, not if, when. We started laughing again. Fortunately, Justice Salami is alive. We started laughing again. When it does not work, you know you're already presiding in Kaduna. You continue with your work. I said, sir, that is how it is. That me and Peter, we laughed. I didn't know you two would laugh the same way. So I left and continued my work. Only for one day after siesta, Justice Njideka. Now, she phoned, Mommy, you passed. I said, which exam did I take? She said, Mommy, FJC, for the Supreme Court, I said, there are things I do. This is a joke now. He said, Mommy, it's not a joke. At that time, she was working in Dodo and Co. That she worked there for about 4 years before she went into the FCT registry and became a magistrate there. He said that her boss told her that the Attorney General, that is Mohammed Adoke, said that I scaled through. I said, how can I scale through? From the southeast, Oguta is my senior. From the south, Alagwa is my senior. So how can I? He said, Mommy, I don't know. I don't understand what you were saying, but the thing is, you have passed. So I said, okay, so what is the, and to tell you, I didn't even know what the processes were, what the procedures were. So I said, okay, Njide. So what did they say is the next step? He said, oh, the names are now going, of the people who passed, are now going to the NJC. So I continued my work. Then, during that time of the crisis of the two big ogas, Salami and Katsina, so the most senior of the presiding justices, Adamu, now sent messages to all the presiding justices across the nation that for us to come to Abuja to discuss how we go to these our big ogas to plead with them to to reconcile their differences. So I was coming from Kaduna to Port Harcourt to Abuja. When my phone rang, it was the chief judge of Bayelsa, Kate Adele. At that time, she was in NJC. I said, Kate that doesn't phone, doesn't pick calls. What's she calling me for? Gemma was there. I picked the call. Mommy, congratulations. You scaled through the NJC. Yeah, congrats. I said, how? She said, they put you for Southeast. Like what I've been talking about. Women, yes, this problem we women have. I've never worked in the Southeast. I'm from the Southeast originally. I've never worked there. So, but they said, oh, federal character. So she said, oh, that the agency felt there was a lady from the north, Aloma Gupta, a lady from the southwest, Adekeye. And so, me being the most senior from the southeast, and in fact, I was, after Anguta from the southeast, I was the next, both men and women. So that's how, that is the story, that is the truth.
You know, this interview will not be complete if we don't talk about the debates that we see in our court system. But before I go to that, right on what we just talked about, I want to ask about your opinions on the move to have some senior lawyers go directly from the bar to the bench. It seems that that move was cut short, you know, at the time. Do you see help in a way, especially when we talk about the delays in our court system, and then they can bring their own peculiar experiences to the bench, especially when, like Marlene Senior has said, the quality of judgments that we see from some of our judges of the bench are looking to write in.
Some of what you might see about the quality may be because of the enormous work. Our country has become so litigious. To be frank, okay, look at the Supreme Court. I did a lead for a market store in Sapele. Market store, how much was really the rent that was at 200 naira? Came to school. I had to write it. And when you are writing, you must capture everything. And that's what accounts for these delays. The avalanche of work in the courts is just too much. I mean, it's just too much.
So what solution can we look for?
I would prefer a constitutional amendment as to what should get to the Supreme Court, so that the justices of the Supreme Court will pay more attention to the real deals that should get there. And the Court of Appeal have the thing ended at that level. And the matter of having senior lawyers, I have a reservation about to the appellate bench. I don't see some being in the private practice or even in the academia. One wants to be in education, no problem. I believe it is better to start from the high court. The appellate has some nuances and some factors operating there that may not be that easy for a practicing lawyer to be able to cope. Even us that have been there from the magistracy, it's still a learning. You have time, you need time to learn. When I got to the Court of Appeal, it took me a while. Yes, and I have been in education. So for somebody from outside education to fly into the appellate, the health of even the candidates will be impaired. That is the truth of the matter. And we've had some professors. Justice Okachike was my lecturer in the Soka. He went to the High Court and got to the Supreme Court. Justice Nikito, he was the foundation dean of the Faculty of Law. While I was magistrate in Port Harcourt, he was in the he came to the High Court. He easily got to the Supreme Court. And you can see the avalanche or the numerous judgments he put across, that he did them with ease. To go to and the interesting one is direct to the Supreme Court. Their health will crash, definitely. If those who were accustomed, a profession is a profession, skill is there. Like when I was elevated to the High Court, before I was given my court, I drove to Ichendu. I went to Elelemo where Justice Ichendu was living. Ichendu was my classmate in Nsukka at the law school. He came into the bench from the private sector. So I drove to him and he just said, hey, why are you here? I said, please teach me how this High Court. He said, but it's the same adjudication. I said, no. The magistrate court is a court of summary jurisdiction. The High Court, all those flying papers and all. I carried my notebook. At that time, I was deputy governor. I carried my notebook. I said, well, teach me the processes. He taught me. We were classmates. So if I needed, as at that time, I had been a magistrate for 14 years. If I still needed some training for the High Court. So it's not that the people already there, the appellate courts, say no, it cannot be. It's not for want of not wanting new. Oh yes, the new blood is very welcome, but I believe it is better to start.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so just ask one question and then we give us an advice for the house. In your valuable speech, my lord, you mentioned your experience in the civil war and also went into the points that were not careful and then you suggested the fact that the creation of experimental employment. What other measures or advice do you to help in beating problem that we all
No, once the chief executive of either the state or the nation takes on that role, the difference will certainly come up. The role of the commissioner or youth employment, whatever name they want to call it, governor wants to call it, or the minister, just like the president is the minister of petroleum, he takes on the minister of youth. Yes, with the apparatus of government and the machinery at his disposal, it will flow. Yes, it's the way to go. even my husband shares my views on those things because when I mentioned it to him, because those views stem from my discussion with a late friend, Funke Adedoyin. We discussed at length 2005. So my husband, we were in the plane. So when my husband said, both of you, especially your friend, her mouth couldn't stop. I said, what you were discussing. When I mentioned it to him, we were in London. He said, my wife, as you see me, you have seen the commissioner. It was in London, he gave himself that position. And when we came back, we felt that first day. And that's why we now had a one-on-one with this teeming youth. Many of them are operating because they don't know the way forward. And even the uneducated, the skills acquisition will suck them out. And with the head of state at the helm of affairs, it's a matter of training. Once they are trained and then equipped, at the end of the unemployment. And one area I need to capture, because I was involved in skills acquisition and I had a lot of teamwork. The women lawyers were the wheels which I was able to do all of it. Thank you.
Now, lastly, with the Nigerian Association of Women, and they all working. The young lawyers, yes, some of them are already deaf and professional, started salon and all that. It's really
I think, yes, I think that there's a lacuna. And I think that
my Lord, brothers and my sister. We also have the current also member of ground, Mrs. Irene Pepper. Yes, very encouraging sister. And we also have the head of membership, Mrs. Buchi Adala. I facilitate us, my other, let him come. My other sisters are here present, Mrs. Odili also. Please come over, sir.
I have to go and wear my own.
So it's going to be an active member of the Longmont branch and a lot of other sisters who are not yet online because even the Honorable Commissioner, our senior, the Honorable Commissioner, Mrs.